Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Supergirl Season 4 Episode 7, otherwise entitled Rather the Fallen Angel. And before you proceed with this review, make sure you've seen the episode as it will be filled with spoilers. So we had three sort of storylines going on in this episode, and the first one I'm going to talk about is the storyline going on with Supergirl and Manchester Black. Now, Supergirl and Manchester are actually working together in this episode to try and hunt down the Children of Liberty and try and track them down and what they're doing and trying to predict their next moves. Now, this storyline was interesting because I thought it was a really good dynamic to have Supergirl and Manchester Black working together, because Manchester Black I think is one of the most interesting things about this season. I think he's one of the characters who has the most intrigue about him in terms of like where he's going to go, what type of character he's going to become, and with that I think pairing him with Supergirl was an interesting choice, and I think it worked really well. I think the two of them play off of each other very well. I think David Ajala, who plays Manchester, is a very good actor, and I really like what he brings to the show, and pairing him with Melissa Benoist again I think worked very well in their favour, and I enjoyed their scenes together. I like their banter. I thought that they worked quite well, especially because this was a type of situation where Manchester Black is quite a violent, quite erratic character, quite an erratic character who, punches first, asks questions later, that sort of thing, whereas Supergirl a lot more obviously restrained. No, we don't do it like this, and this does lead to her kind of breaking the ties with Manchester Black, saying, look, I can't work with you if you're going to be like this. If this is how you operate, we can't work together. And that was kind of something I knew was coming. It was kind of predictable. Just given the fact if you know these characters, that's just the way it works. You kind of knew that's how it was going to go down, how it was going to play out. And that is definitely the way it does play out. And even the way this does eventually go, in the way that obviously he actually then goes to the Children of Liberty, he goes to Agent Liberty in order to try and help them capture Supergirl. It just it came across very predictable. You kind of knew where this story was going. It ticked all the boxes in terms of this kind of story, so you didn't really feel any kind of emotion when he did betray her. It just kind of came across as a bit, oh yep, there it is, we hit that moment. And it does kind of get wrapped up a little bit at the end when the story collides with James's story and we see him actually, rescue Supergirl from the tower in a way. And that was interesting in another sort of sense, but again, it just came across as incredibly predictable, and given where they end off with Manchester Black in this episode, it kind of makes it seem like that entire whole thing was irrelevant, so that was a little bit strange. But I have to say, I'm really enjoying Manchester Black this season. Like I say at the beginning of this little bit, I think that he's one of the most interesting things about the season. I love David Ajala. I think he's a great actor. I love what he's bringing to the table. I love what he brings to the show. I love his dynamic with the characters. I think he's awesome, and I just can't wait to see what they do with him next. Now, as I mentioned, James also has a story in this episode. It's funny, they try and market this episode as if it was like a big James episode, and it is in some ways, but not really. He's basically ending up being captured by Agent Liberty and by the Children of Liberty, and he's basically forced to try and make this big public statement about the Children of Liberty and about how Guardian and James Olsen supports them, and everything he does is to exercise his rights and to do things like that. Definitely fun, again, to see James have a story. I know I bring this up all the time this season, but actually seeing James getting to do something other than just sit in the Catco office, talking to characters or hanging out with Lena, it was actually nice to see him just out there in the field doing something. Seeing Guardian come out again was fun. So I liked all this, and I have to say the intensity of the scene where he's actually trying to blow up that tower was quite good. I actually thought that was quite well executed. I kind of wish he would have done it. I kind of wanted James to turn evil in this episode, just because, again, it would give him a consistent story, because to be honest, I feel like after this episode, given where James ends off, I feel like he's kind of done now for the season. So it's like, oh, well, there you go, James, you had your 1 or 2 episodes of fame, and now you're going back to being in the back seat, which is a real shame. I hope that's not true. I could be wrong there, but I just feel like the way it's gone, and the way the episode ends with James, it feels like maybe this story for him is pretty much wrapped up, and I think that's a real shame, because I feel like, Mehcad Brooks, he's a fantastic actor, lovely guy. I can't wait to see him, in future projects, but I really want him to do well on Supergirl and to do more. And if this was all we got this season, although it's more than what we normally get, it's still not substantial enough to make him a realistic character, because, we can't have these characters who, are just in this show just to be in scenes, because, the actors are going to get tired eventually. They're not going to want to be a part of it anymore, and they're going to want to move on because they're getting other offers. And I feel like that very well may happen with Mehcad Brooks if they don't give him something. Now, one storyline I loved in this episode is the other storyline in this, which was the stuff with Lina and the Hironel and her human test subject. I thought all this stuff was great. I thought this was excellent. I loved, you know, Katie McGrath. I think she did an excellent job in this episode, especially conveying the emotion, everything that Lena's been through, her character arc over the past couple of seasons, bringing her to this sort of moment in time, is really well handled. Seeing her, you know, finally getting this human test subject to use for the Hyronel, and seeing her bond and connect with this person, and realizing that her and this guy are rather similar, and they actually have this bond, and I thought it was really well written, really well handled, and it ends on a really sad note. Obviously, the test subject, you know, he's saying throughout this entire thing, I think his name is Adam, he was saying, you know, oh, I'm not a hero, I shouldn't be alive right now, the only reason I'm doing this trial is because I don't care if I live or die. And I think that was something that really rang true with Lena, and I think it showed in that sense. And Katie McGrath, once again, did a great job of showing that emotion, and I loved all of that. And I think it just worked really well for her, because Lena is a very interesting character in the show, because she doesn't fall on the line of good nor bad. And obviously she's kind of, you know, being a Luthor, she doesn't have the greatest lineage, and she always tries and proves herself to be a good person. And I think a lot of us always thought that with this Hyronel storyline, this was kind of her going down the dark path. But in this episode, it really proves that Lena really does have a heart of gold, and I think it really shows here. Now, granted, like I say, it ends on a really sad note with the test subject, Adam, actually dying at the end. And you can see Lena's face, she's absolutely broken by it. Like, she is destroyed by this news. And the look in her eyes almost made me feel like, you know, maybe this could be an evil turn. But I think we've all been saying this for like 2 seasons now, that, oh, this is it. This is the moment where Lena turns evil. You know, we just actually have to wait until that actually happens. But, you know, I think that all this stuff was actually really interesting. And if it is building to that, then I think they're doing a good job with it. If they're not, then I think it's a really good mislead in that sense. Not something that will just annoy people. I think it's a good mislead. And I like all of that. So I think all the stuff with Lena was great. I just loved all of her dialogue. I loved her interaction with Adam. I thought this was a great pairing. And again, all these scenes just worked so well for me personally. Now, Lena does actually end the episode with James coming over to the office and basically trying to smooth things over, and she basically essentially kicks him out. I think this is good. I really have never been a big fan of Lena and James as a relationship. It came out of nowhere. It doesn't work. They have no chemistry. I kind of hope that Lena doesn't take James back, because I just don't think it's a good idea for the show, and like I say, it doesn't work, and I think the less relationships on Supergirl, the better. I know we have sort of the Nianal Brainiac 5 relationship potentially brewing, but I just really think we need less of that. And if Lena and James gets cut off, I think that's great. I think it's much better for Lena. I think Lena as a character is a lot more than just a love interest, and I think that, you know, she really proved that in this episode. There is some really awful dialogue in this episode, though, I have to mention. Like, some of the lines in this, like stuff from Eve Tessmacher, stuff from Supergirl herself, stuff from Manchester, like, there is some really poor dialogue. Even moments where I was just like, what are you actually talking about? Like, there was just, like, something, I can't even remember what the exact line was, but there was something from Eve Tessmacher where I was just like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you even talking about? It's ridiculous. So there was a lot of moments like that in this episode as well. Overall, though, I actually thought this episode, you know, had a lot of weak moments. I definitely think this is a step down from the past couple of episodes we've had of Supergirl, just because, again, I think all the storylines in this, bar one, were pretty predictable and kind of a letdown, and the awful dialogue is really cringeworthy at times. But the episode does get a big boost thanks to that Lena storyline and Katie McGrath, because like I say, I think all that stuff was great. I honestly really loved the Lena storyline, and I was worried about that story, I'm not going to lie. I was worried how they were going to handle it, and I thought it was going to come across as a bit forceful, but it really doesn't. I think it works so well and shows why Lena is a really good character on this show. And I really hope they continue with these kind of storylines for her, because she's fantastic. I think Katie McGrath is a great actress, despite her accent, which completely goes in and out all the time. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I think this storyline overall was so well written for this episode, and I loved every minute of it. But what did you guys think about Rather the Fallen Angel? Make sure you let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Lena's story? Make sure you let me know all your thoughts in the comments. So, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It will help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV, and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said, guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.